G'day battlers, and today we are jumping in for another brand new Silph Arena monthly meta, this time for the month of March, and that is going to be the Obsidian Cup. Now, if you have no idea what the Silph Arena is, or if the Obsidian Cup just looks sort of interesting, you kind of want to get involved, I'm going to leave a link to a video up there that goes into a little bit more about what the Silph Arena is, and go through all of that. But jumping into it, the Obsidian Cup, it's a pretty interesting meta, because it's one that is only banning things, so it isn't a case of you can only use Pokemon with typings of XXX, but instead it's you cannot use these Pokemon and you can use everything else. So they've banned Pokemon with typings of Fairy, Fighting, Grass, Flying, and Ground, and then they've also banned Mega Pokemon as per usual, Shadow Pokemon, Bastiodon, Lickitung, Pachirisu, Vigoroth, and Registeel. So with that, it's sort of a little bit hard to grasp what is there because, you know, it is everything. There is so much that is allowed. So I think what we're going to do, we're just going to jump straight into my Meta Simplified infographic and take a look at what we've got. So and that's the thumbnail. So we've got our little triangle that is on the screen here as the Obsidian Cup Meta Simplified infographic, and we've got a couple on the right hand side as well, some dragon types and then some core breakers as well. So focusing in on this main triangle first though, we've got the fighters, the counter users in the top. Fighting type has been banned, but it does not mean that you do not have counter damage going on, and Defense Deoxys, Obstagoon, Escavalier all are packing that one. Now, there are a couple of other Pokemon with counter running around, stuff like Sudowoodo, Haxorus even, but for this video, we're going to be focusing on these three. In the bottom right-hand side, we have the things that lose to the fighting type. So these sort of like, generally they're sort of the anti-flyer role, but in this meta, flying types have been banned, so they're sort of, I mean, realistically, they're the anti-fighters, I suppose, which is a term that I seem to use all the time. But we've got rock types in here, so we have like Alolan Graveler and Regirock. We have electric types, which is also Alolan Graveler, and then also Magnezone, and also things like Galvantula sort of fit in here. Then we've got things like Umbreon, dark typing, stuff that's good against psychics, and then we have Zangoose as well, who's running Shadow Claw as that ghost move, and then he's also got Night Slash and Close Combat. So Zangoose, I'll get to in a little sec, in a minute, because it is a very interesting Pokemon as well, and probably one of the most useful Pokemon in the right hands, I think, in this meta. But then the third group in the bottom left hand side is that anti-fighter group. So we have like Cresselia as that sort of psychic damage, Cofagrigus as a ghost type, and then Beedrill and Forretress as bug types, which aren't like, you don't really see bug and go, oh, they're going to be like beating fighters. But because it isn't like normal fighting types, you've got things like Defense Deoxys, who has the psychic typing, weak to bug, Obstagoon with the dark typing, weak to bug. So you've sort of got some interesting sort of bug weakness built into the counter users that are around. But jumping into it though, obviously we do have a triangle, so it's going to be pretty easy to understand, but that doesn't mean that there aren't some intricacies built into this meta, and obviously we have the box below me to talk about as well. But starting off with the fighting types, we've got Defense Deoxys, is that just bulky Pokemon that is always good when it's allowed. It's got some versatility in its charge moves. It's got that Thunderbolt, which can be really good up against like the water types that are running around. On this graphic, the water types are just stuck in the core breaker spot, but they are important. I will talk about them in a little bit, and having Thunderbolt could be really nice. And then Psycho Boost as well, a really nice, just big, hard-hitting move that sort of hits everything that isn't either like a dark type or ghost type or psychic type that's running around, which is definitely a threat. The dark type is going to be a bit scary. Obstagoon coming to mind straight away with that Night Slash that can do super effective damage, but Obstagoon has to sort of grapple with the fact that it has the dark normal typing, which means that it takes double super effective damage from counter. So the Obstagoon Defense Deoxys matchup is a little bit back and forth. They're both throwing moves at each other that they neither of them are a fan of. Escavalier being a little bit different there. It's got the steel bug typing, so it's neutral to counter. And then it's also got access to Mega Horn, which means that it's going to be able to do really big damage to the dark types and the psychic types running around. Throw on Drill Run as well to take down those like, you know, Magnezone, Alolan Graveler, Regirock in the bottom right hand group. I feel like Escavalier is a really strong pick that could get a lot of use. It's a little bit squishy. I mean, like Defense Deoxys is a lot bulkier, but I think that it could really do a good job in this meta, depending on how it all sort of shakes out, and expect to see a fair amount of Escavaliers as well. It's probably going to be on my first draft squad, I think. But I mean, yeah, on the right hand side, we've got Umbreon, who can actually fight back a little bit to Defense Deoxys, because again, it has that dark typing. There's also the Zangoose can actually do really well up against Defense Deoxys, because it has the Shadow Claw that's super effective, and then it also has Night Slash, more super effective, even though it's taking the super effective counter damage along the way. But on the other three sort of rocky, steely sort of followers get beaten down a little bit better by the counter users. And on the left hand side, we've got Cresselia there, which still doesn't like the Night Slashes from Obstagoon. If you can land a Moonblast, that could be pretty big for you because it is super effective. And then you'd have to be a little bit scared of a Scavalier throwing those Mega Horns as well. So, which is why Scavalier is a pretty strong pick, I feel. Then there's Cofagrigus, who again doesn't like the Night Slashes, has to be scared of that. So there's a little bit, you can see why this graphic isn't exactly perfect in terms of portraying every matchup. But it sort of just gives you an idea about what the sort of different roles are that are going on a little bit. And then there's the bug types as well. The bug types, similar to that Mega Horn on a Scavalier, they take out the psychic damage on the Deoxys, the dark typing on the Obstagoon, and they also resist counter. Oh, well, it's neutral to Fortress because it's got the steel typing as well, but the bug typing doesn't care about counter as much. And yeah, so they're kind of interesting, and obviously Fortress has access to that Earthquake as well, or it could run Sand Tomb, but you've got ground damage, which is going to be helpful to fight back the other way on the blue arrow against those rock types, those steel types that are running around in this meta now. Talking about those rocky, steely types, Regirock is actually a really interesting Pokemon because it now has move options. You could be running the sort of stock standard Focus Blast Stone Edge, or you could be running the brand new Earthquake if you decide to burn an Elite TM, which I think is the PvPoke recommended move, although that might have changed since. But it's going to be an interesting one, I feel. I think the Regirock could be really interesting, and it's got Lock On as that the fastest charging fast move in the game, and it can definitely do some damage. So I'm interested to see how Regirock sort of fares as we go on. But Magnezone and Alolan Graveler, having that electric typing, again, we've got the water types that you have to be a little bit aware of, even though I haven't put them in the main graphic, even though there aren't the flyers running around. And also, they kind of just give some good neutral coverage. Like Alolan Graveler, for example, can do really big damage to pretty much everything with Stone Edge. And it's only 4 Volt Switches to get there, 1, 2, 3, 4, and boom, you've got a Stone Edge to throw. And of course, you've got the option to bait with a Rock Blast. You could go for something funky, like having Thunderbolt as a charge move as well. Could be interesting there. Umbreon, to be honest, I don't think there's really much reason to run Psychic in this meta. Like, I guess you could hit Beedrill pretty nicely, but I feel like Foul Play or Dark Pulse and then Last Resort is probably the better way to go in this meta. And again, Dark type just being a bit of a utility in this meta, just being able to counter all of those Psychic types running around, although I think Bug probably does that job a little bit better, just because it is also getting the Dark types as well in that what it's actually countering down sort of pool. And then yeah, Cresselia could actually also be running Grass Knot, which could fight back up against the rock types. Could be interesting as well, and the waters as well. So I guess I'd actually probably recommend Grass Knot Moonblast if I had to pick 2 moves on a Cresselia for this meta, at least early on, not really knowing anything particular about what people are going to be using. And then Cofagrigus also probably, I mean, I guess you run Psychic just because you don't really need Dark Pulse. Like there's, yeah, I guess you run Psychic just for good measure, but I mean, yeah. And then we've got the Dragons Below Me, the box below me. Dragons are just neutral damage. There's all sorts of flavors of them. You've got Zweilous with the dark typing, so you've got that dark pulse that you can use against like the psychic types and the ghost types running around. Could be really helpful there. You've got things like Dragonair, who has that Aqua Tail, that really spammy Aqua Tail, that again, you can sort of hit those rock types with. You can get these sort of, you can just, I was battling an opponent in the Guardian Cup who was running that Dragon Pulse on their Dragonair, and you can sort of sneak it through. If they're sort of expecting the Aqua Tail, so that could be useful as well. Dragalge, it's still relatively new to the scene, but Dragon Tail just does so much damage, and again, Aqua Tail coming out pretty hot and heavy on that one. And then Goodra, really interesting pick, has access to that Power Whip, which could also be very interesting in this meta. And then also, I feel like Muddy Water is the move that I keep seeing most often as the second move on Goodra, which could be interesting as well, but we'll just have to wait and see. I've sort of separated the dragons out of the Meta Simplified infographic because they are just neutral damage. They've got Dragon Breath or Dragon Tail, and they just hurt everything, and everything kind of hurts them, and it's just a case of who's going to go down before the other one finishes the job, basically. But everyone knows how dragons work at this point, and based on what Rise to a Panic I was talking about, well, I heard Speediest Chief talk about it panic talking about it after his Guardian Cup battles, that Dragon Tail is probably a better move than Dragon Breath, just because if you do sneak a Dragon Tail through, that's a full 3 turns that you've just sort of just got, or if you had Dragon Breath, you just get the 1. And I ended up using a Dragon Tail in my Guardian Cup as well, so it seemed to work pretty well, I feel, and I'm kind of on board that the Dragon Tail uses might be a little bit better. But that brings us to the core breakers in the Politoed and the Walrein, the water types essentially. So Politoed originally was on this graphic, like on the main sort of triangle bit, and I really do like Politoed in this meta. It's got that spammy Weather Ball. Weather Ball did get nerfed a couple of Go Battle League seasons ago, but it is still a really good move, really spammy. It can hurt a lot of this meta. Like, you're not really, I'm looking at the main graphic here, and there isn't really anything that's like resisting the Weather Balls, and then you've sort of got an option as to whether you want to pair it with Earthquake, so you can sort of hit the Alolan Gravelers, the Magnezones, the Regirocks, or if you want to run Blizzard and want to have that nuke potential for all the dragons that are going to be running around as well. So you've kind of got some options there. Obviously for, I think it's Earthquake, the F2 Elite TM. Blizzard's the one that is in just the regular TM pool, so that might be a consideration that might make more people lean towards Blizzard. Just because dragons, pretty much whenever dragons are available, people are going to use dragons, so something to keep in mind as well. And then Walrein, fairly new to the scene after its Com Day a couple months ago. It's got that Icicle Spears, whatever the correct grammatical term is, but it's really spammy, can do a lot of damage, and then it's got that Earthquake as well, which can do some, Earthquake is a move we've touched on a couple times already, so you kind of know what Earthquake can do, but essentially that is my sort of early look at the meta, what we might be able to see in these early Obsidian Cup tournaments, and we'll just have to wait and see how it does unfold. But with all of that said, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, especially that subscribe one, for all of the Obsidian Cup content coming out soon. If anyone does do any early Obsidian Cup tournaments and ends up winning, I'd be very happy to feature them over here as well. But yeah, with that said, thank you for watching, and thank you to all of my patrons and supporters over on Twitch as well. And yeah, if you didn't end up catching the Silph Arena Showdown that actually announced this meta, go check that out, because it was I'm sure it was a fun time. I haven't actually done it yet, but I'm assuming it was fun. So, I mean, check it out and subscribe.